this is one of those things where I just want to film it on the fly without editing or anything. I just want to get it out there. Sometimes the moment kind of speaks for itself. And specifically, for you, if this resonates, I'd be curious. But I was having a conversation with a family member earlier today, and we were discussing something around how we hope or expect other people to change. And even if we don't articulate it that way, oftentimes we act that out without even realizing it. And so if you're somebody who has like friction in your life in any way, shape, or form, could be family, could be friends, could be business relations, could just be too many awkward moments you don't know how to get over, where you have the feeling like, man, if this person would just do A, B, C, D, E, F, or G, then our entire relationship would be better, everything would be better, things would be different. So I wanted to share this concept with you because after having this conversation that I had about an hour ago, and then I just hit the gym, so yeah, you're getting sweaty Spence right now. This is just something that I wish that I knew a long time ago. Like if I knew this, in my teens or early 20s even, which I don't have any regrets for, because most people don't realize this their entire lives. This person I was talking to, was in their 60s. So you can imagine, right? You could live your whole life without realizing this stuff. And I just find that to be so helpful if we can see it. So there's a book, the concept that I'm saying right now, ironically, doesn't come from the book. It was from my own realizations, just over time, an accumulation of, all the, I don't know what you want to call it, self-development, if you will, that I've done on myself, the business world, relationships, and the pain that I felt. Most importantly, I believe that majority of learning comes from suffering. And while that's not my only belief, I don't believe all learning comes from suffering. I believe a great deal of it does, our learnings, right? And especially the learnings that affect change versus logically knowing it and actually putting it into the world. So what was this thing? What was this topic? So the topic was essentially how there's two people, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, how if one person is treating somebody badly, it's very natural for the person who is receiving that treatment to look at that person and say, hey, you have this problem, I wish you'd change it, because if you did, things could be better. Now, while this makes sense from a logical perspective, we're overlooking something here, which is this entire concept around, what is normal for that person, okay? So there's two aspects to this that are really powerful. One of the aspects is the idea that, like, if you picture a person and their behavior kind of like a thermostat in your house, set to a certain temperature, if it goes above that temperature or below that temperature too much, it becomes quite uncomfortable for that individual. Now, if their thermostat, if what they're regulated at, if what is normal to them is poor communication, poor behavior, right, and treating other people badly, they aren't hyper aware that that is, normal to them, but maybe not normal for other people. So if they treat people worse than the average person or better than the average person, they may not be aware of that unless they pay special attention and have great awareness around the signals that are coming from the world trying to communicate with them. So this is a little conceptual, so you're gonna have to bear with me because this would be better probably drawn out, but I just want to say it and then I'll put it out there and I can always draw it out later, because I think the visual here would really help versus trying to track what I'm saying with words. But still, this for you right now, if you want to learn how to communicate better with humans and the people in your life, do better business, do more business, this will directly help you. This is a direct input into understanding other people and their behavior. So oftentimes we sit around and we find ourselves naturally looking at another person going, man, if they would just change A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then I would be able to handle them or deal with them, or I'd want to be in this situation. The caveat is that you're the one aware of their behavior. They are not aware, and they can't see themselves in that moment. So there's a couple routes you can go from here. Obviously, you can tell them. I'm sure you've tried that. Tell me how that goes. Hey, you're being a jerk, right? What are they going to do? They're not going to go, wow, let me think about this. No, they're going to immediately react. Now, let's go a layer deeper. Why are they reacting? The reason they're reacting is because they have some sort of wound. I'm just going to use this analogy. I'm not saying everyone has trauma and all that. We all have trauma. That's just part of growing up. Like, you're going to slip and fall and freaking smack your head from time to time. You know what I mean? Like, that's life. Whatever you want to call it. Is that trauma? I don't know. That might just be living and breathing, and that is part of life, okay? We don't need to like track down every trauma in my personal perspective. While it can be helpful to understand where things came about. What's more important is understanding what affects change. Okay, because I think we all just want to affect change versus sitting around and talking about something that happened when we were a kid. That's just a signal, right? And we can listen to the signal or we don't listen to the signal moving forward. So in this moment, let's talk about this moment. If someone is behaving badly towards me and I respond to them, okay, and my reaction to them is maybe argumentative or with friction or fighting or whatever, ironically what's happening is I think that they deserve it because look at how they're treating me, okay? But here's the ironic part about it. They can't see that. So all they feel is the pain of you now touching their wound. They're behaving out of a wound. When I say a wound, it might be, for example, I have emotional pain inside of myself as a man because maybe I didn't have a father figure, right? Like this is very common for men, okay, women too. But we don't recognize that we're operating from that place because that's all we know. That's just normal, right? And so we're operating out of this wound, if you will, right? Which is not a fully complete picture of what it means to be a man. And so I think I'm being a man because I'm a man and I'm being, right? I'm alive. I'm doing what I need to do. I go to work, I'm responsible, I pay my bills, I take care of people. As a man, that's what I feel like a man should do. But without having seen or been around a man, right? And this is just one example. There's many examples of this. It's just a very easy one to relate to, okay? Without having proper male role models around, okay, and female too, what ends up happening is the area that we're operating out of might be from a really unhealthy place, but we can't see that. We don't understand that initially unless you gain awareness over these things, right? But most people can't see it. They don't understand. So they're just operating and their wound is leaking on other people, okay? They are living from this wound, and that wound might be putting stuff and like kind of gross, but like leaking on other people. And if a wound is leaking on other people, usually they might say something like, stop doing that, stop leaking on me, I don't like that, etc. The problem is that if that's all you know is normal, okay, the person leaking, then when somebody says those things to you, and especially in a mean way, or what you're perceiving as a mean way, you're just being, and it feels like, ironically, they are attacking you. So this gets very interesting very fast. It's a little like conceptual, it's like Inception a little bit, but you got to understand what's happening here. Somebody yells at somebody else. This person gets pissed off because this person just yelled at them, right? So what they do is they start fighting back. However, if this person gains awareness before the other person, they may see that the reason that they yelled is because they don't know any other way. Now, it doesn't mean it's okay to accept that treatment, but what it means is the person who is actually aware is the one responsible for affecting change and being the leader in this situation. The man, okay, even in masculinity in this whole conversation, the man is not meant to be the leader in all things. The man is meant to be a leader in certain things and in certain ways. And the woman can lead, but they lead from a different perspective. Men typically lead from, I don't know if I want to call it the front, but they lead by full example. A woman leads by creating space and love and nurture. That is leadership, believe it or not. Because whether someone deserves it or not, if they create that environment, what will happen is that man begins to soften and his wounds will be exposed and eventually he will see them. Again, this is not an excuse for mistreatment, but mistreatment becomes a little subjective because mistreatment, okay, yeah, if a man hits you, now we're in a whole different conversation. We don't even need to go there right now. This should be obvious to people. But if, for example, a man yells at you, nowadays a woman might look at that and go, this is a bad man, this man, XYZ, right? They're gonna have all these labels and ideas and thoughts in their mind, okay? And again, very situational, so you have to kind of use your own points of reference, as long as they're healthy points of references, okay? Ideally, maybe relationships that have been together for a very long time, built on mutual respect, where they love and care about each other, and they truly feel like they're in a healthy environment. You should not listen to your single friends on this, because they're gonna have the wrong perspective, I guarantee it. They can only help you get what they have. They cannot help you get something they don't have, because if they knew how to get it, they'd have it. So only listen to people who have what you have, or have what you want. It's pretty obvious. But this whole point, this whole conception around, like, people have these wounds and those wounds are normal to them, so they don't even see them as wounds, therefore they're not aware. So when you come along and you accidentally brush up against that wound, you might agitate that wound by accident. Now, this specific part of this concept is more directly from the book called Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote the Four Agreements as well. Really, really good book, like Mastery of Love. My gosh, I cannot recommend it enough. But when we brush up against other people's wounds, I don't remember if he says it like this or someone else says it like this, but what happens is they become activated, right? But they don't recognize that they have a wound, and they don't recognize that maybe it was even leaking on someone else. And maybe it wasn't leaking on someone else, and regardless, they had a wound and you accidentally brushed up against it, you agitated, you opened the wound, you put salt in the wound without even realizing it. Now, you may not be aware and they may not be aware. And this is where all these little frictions come up in life, right? Why did you do it like that? Why did you say things like this? Okay. You knew that I, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? We're expecting people to be fully conscious and aware that their way of being is wrong, which doesn't make any sense because that's all they know. Until they meet someone who inspires them to change, or until they have an event in their life, usually a close call. You know, lots of people lose weight after they get a heart attack scare. They take their food more seriously. They take exercise more seriously for a reason, right? But does it take an event like that to become aware? Not necessarily. But no one can really explain why one person becomes aware and another person doesn't through the course of pain and suffering or through these types of events. Some people just continue down that direction, right? Some people pick up the signal more quickly. So more in the moment versus 10 years later when they go, I knew I should have lost weight, but instead I waited for 10 years to have a near-death experience before I realized I want to be around for my kids. Somebody else may have realized that they just weren't as flexible as they were, 2 years before. And so immediately that was the signal for them to get back into movement, into proper movement, right? And exercise and nutrition, etc. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. The person responsible for improving communication between two people is the one that's aware. It's not the other person, because the longer you sit here and you go, well, they should do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, they shouldn't. The reason why is because they're not aware. You are. You're the one talking about it. You're the one thinking about it. If they were talking about it and thinking about it, I would tell them, hey, you're the one who is responsible for improving and affecting this relationship now, because you're aware. So it's whichever one is more aware. Now, the only other thing that you can do to encourage awareness from somebody else is, number one, lead by example. Number two, lead with so much love. Okay, because all relationships are going to hit something like this, where one person kind of needs to be the leader, the embodiment of what it means to be the better person, or the one leading by example. And you can't lead by example to prove something to someone, or to like, see, look at me. It's got to be like, I'm leading by example because I understand the mechanisms of human behavior, and I understand that me leading by example for myself, me properly taking care of myself, that doesn't mean putting myself in front of the other. People get this confused so much. I see this has got to be like top 3 in modern relationship problems, which is the person thinking, I need to take care of myself. It's the whole oxygen mask of myself before I can care for others. That doesn't mean you don't care for others, and that doesn't mean you put yourself so high on the list that you neglect others and you stop serving them and you only serve yourself. This is like, I think it's more common with women, especially like this whole current movement around, and women are going to learn, I think, the hard way with this one. 10 years from now, they're going to put themselves first so much and neglect the others so much that unfortunately they're going to alienate men. They're going to push them away, right? And I think it's not going to be pretty. But I wanted to share this concept. I know I'm interjecting a lot of like my own perspective here and opinions, but this should be pretty clear, right? The one who is responsible for improving a relationship, because while it takes two, it takes one initially to be aware. It takes one to be the catalyst. It takes one to ask the question. It takes one to lead through love. It takes one to ask, hey, can we, are you open to working on this, right? And ironically, the more you go the opposite route, the more you say things about them, it really pisses me off when you do X, Y, Z, or you really should do that, or I need you to stop doing this. What happens is you're being a negative experience for them in a moment where their wound is showing, and they don't realize they have a wound. Remember, they don't realize that's where they're operating from. They don't realize that's their average thermostat. They don't realize that's what their room temperature is set to. So you're cranking up the temperature or cranking down the temperature, and to them, all it feels like is discomfort. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm learning something, they're showing me a new way. No, because if you were showing a new way in a way that inspired them, you would lead by example to where they could feel the new way and go, that doesn't feel as cold as I thought. That doesn't feel as warm as I thought. In fact, that feels better than what I've been used to. And that difference of you leading through example, not expectation, ends up in a space where, my goodness, you realize that they now see the difference, they feel the difference, and they naturally are inspired to move now in that direction. Men inspire women this way. Women, believe it or not, inspire men in this way. Women, you have way more power than you realize. You have far more power than you realize with men. I think on average, it is so rare for a woman to realize how powerful that she actually is. Because, honey, do the dishes, hey honey, would you do the dishes? Versus like, baby, I find it so sexy when I come home on occasion, not all the time, I'm not expecting all the time, on occasion, when I come home and you've done the dishes. That just says something to me that's so beautiful. And I just want to give you so much respect, even if he's not doing the dishes right now, even if there's no dishes to do in that moment. You can say that and praise him, right? Because that's what a man wants. A man wants to feel like the man. A man wants to feel cool and like a badass, and like he wants to feel like the man. So make him feel like the man. Make him feel like that's right? That's right. This is how I do things. Okay? Guess what he's gonna do? He's gonna do the dishes more. It's so easy. Men are more similar to probably like a dog than anything else. Like, you can't sit there and say like, good boy, it's gonna piss him off. But if you're like, man, you're so strong and capable, when you go out there and you're doing business, even if you feel like he's not a good business guy, don't tell him you suck at business or you're not a good business guy or this guy's better than you. Yeah, will destroy his character. You have to speak to what you want to see him become and watch him become that. If you speak to what he is, he will decline. If you speak to what he can become, he will grow into that, okay? And that's the power that I feel like most women are missing. And by the way, vice versa for men. If they speak to the feminine nature, what they want their woman to embody, watch her become that. Watch her become that. But if you put her down, you're gonna see her shrink, okay? So speak to what you want them to become, watch them become that. So the main thing I wanted to share was the thing about the wounds. I just had a powerful conversation with someone earlier today, and that was a big realization for them. Again, they're in their 60s, and they were like, my goodness, this entire time I've been waiting for this other person to change, not realizing what I was contributing, right? Just felt like an attack to that person because they're operating out of their wound. They're operating out of what is normal to them. They are just being, and from their perception, it seems like because I'm reacting to their, what feels like toxic stuff to me, I'm reacting, and essentially that feels like the initiation to them, right? Because they are just being. And so what you're basically telling them is like, I don't like who you are at all. And that's okay to not like who they are, but that will not get them to change. Responding or reacting in that way. What will get them to change is to recognize their wound. Say, where is this coming from? Because it's not coming from me, obviously. Where are they operating from? Oh, wow, I see that. What environment could I create that would naturally inspire, warm them up, cool them down? Maybe it's people you can surround yourself with. Hey, honey, I really love this couple. Would you be willing to go to dinner sometime? And don't have an intervention, just go to dinner. Be around more people who have those dynamics in a relationship and naturally watch what happens. And it might not be easy, it might be a lot of friction, but if you lead by example, surround yourself with the right people, and then understand this wound concept of how every time you react or respond in a way and you're waiting for them to change, all you're doing is you're putting your finger in their wound and kind of grinding it. And that is not going to create an environment where that wound can ever be exposed to the air and heal and open up, right? It's just gonna close, and they're gonna keep away from you. They're gonna keep their wounds away from you, and they're not gonna change at all. Because why should they? Because you're not leading by example. You're not changing. You're not closing your wounds. You're not airing out your wounds in a healthy manner. Not on them. Again, you don't want to be leaking on them, right? You want to become aware of your wounds through whatever mechanisms you need to, and do the work in a relationship. By the way, you don't need to leave someone to do the work. I hate when people say this stuff, like, I just need to be single and like heal myself and I'll attract the person. It's like, yeah, for sure. But if you're already in a relationship, that's where you start. You start in the relationship. So I thought this wound concept would be helpful. I know it helped this person I talked to earlier. I want to share that with you guys. And cheers, and I will talk to you in the next video. And by the way, I have no idea what I'm doing this on this YouTube channel yet. I'm talking about a mix of like business, life, personal stuff, emotional stuff, adventure. You know, I've shown like less than 1% of like my actual life. My actual life is so freaking cool. My actual life is way cooler than anything I show or put up on social media. I have terabytes and terabytes of footage that I've never edited, I've never put out there. You know, surfing in Bali back when this was not popular. Like back when Bali was like, if you went to Bali, you know, people had no idea what that was and where that was and all that stuff. Traveling the world, you know, far before COVID, when that became normal with all these remote jobs and stuff. So I've been living a really, really cool life for a long time. Between all the places I've lived, all the people I've met, and the things I've gotten to do up until now, and who I've become through that. And so, yeah, I should probably share more of that stuff. I guess I will as I go on. I'll have to find someone to help me edit it all and do something with it. But yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing with this channel. I just want to let you know that. I'm just sharing this stuff here just to get myself in the pattern of posting something, knowing that over time I'm going to kind of learn what I want to do, how to make it more interesting, entertaining, and make it more fun, because I want to be putting out content. It's just, for me, it feels like work. And I suppose the way that it makes it worth it for me is for me to learn from you directly, like what you're finding helpful or interesting. And I guess I'll just see that pattern emerge over time. So with that said, I'll see you in the next video, whether it's business or personal life, I don't know. But cheers, and I will talk to you soon.